Hello, 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 and welcome back to another week and another episode of Scandal Queens, because you know they never disappoint. These celebrities never go a day, a week, a moment, a minute without a scandal. It almost seems like it takes a certain type. And you know what's really interesting is this year when it came to Hollywood, I follow a handful of the astrology girlies. There are a couple that I like who don't pretend to be masters of the universe, but who just have an interest and they have a craft that they like that they're trying to develop. And this year, what was really interesting is Astro Ash is one of the ones that I follow, and her, among others, their biggest predictions for this year was that when it comes to celebrities, when it comes to Hollywood, it was going to be a year of exposure, that we were going to actually start seeing Hollywood for what it was. We were going to start seeing celebrities for what it was. And people in these positions of kind of like spotlight, limelight, power in the pop culture zeitgeist, they weren't going to be able to hide anymore. And that is so interesting to me because that certainly seems to be the case so far this year, because not only are biggies like Taylor Swift and Nicki Minaj being exposed for who and what they've always been, there are a lot of other celebrities who are now being drawn into the mix. And try as they might to keep your average person fooled, dirty Hollywood is crumbling and their illusions are being exposed left and right. Now, today, of course, I'm talking about the newest, biggest PR bombshell that has hit the news, and that is the Jed Wallace tapes. One of Hollywood's dirtiest secrets dragged right out into the open and into broad daylight, thanks to Blake Lively. This shadow PR Sith's empire came crumbling down earlier this month when recordings of him, Jed Wallace, planning a smear campaign against producer Amanda Ghost were leaked. And this news is just the latest. It is the latest in a nasty feud between Rebel Wilson and Amanda Ghost on the Australian musical film The Deb, which was supposed to come out in 2024. It has now escalated, their little spat has now escalated to a full-on legal battle that has spanned a couple of years now. And if the leaked Wallace tapes were bad for Wilson, wow, it's even worse news for Hollywood, because this new drama and these tapes being leaked in the middle of Rebel Wilson and Amanda Ghost drama, it reveals the truth, like the brutal, factual, black and white truth about that sparkling city on the hill. And that is that Hollywood is built on corruption. It's built on manipulating you and manipulating your emotions through calculated, dirty PR. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, and hopefully I'll be able to kind of lift the veil of Hollywood scandal a little bit further for both of us. But before we get started, let's get a quick temperature check on Hollywood and see what your favorites are getting up to this week in terms of scandals, controversies, problems, you name it. First up, Michael B. Jordan wins the Oscar. A huge congratulations to Michael B. Jordan. Yes, that is right. Michael B. Jordan has taken the Oscar for Best Actor at this year's Academy Awards, and the news comes as a pleasant surprise for those of us, like me, who were bracing themselves for a horrific Kardashian-cursed Timothée Chalamet win. Jordan, of course, won the Oscar for his portrayal of twins Smoke and Stack in 2025's reimagined vampire hit Sinners. It's a huge win, not just for the horror community and for director Ryan Coogler, but for Jordan, obviously, who's an incredibly talented actor. I would argue the Heath generation, the Heath Ledger of our generation. And it's kind of, I think, maybe a sign of things to come, because Ryan Coogler actually, I don't know if everybody knows this, but Ryan Coogler is currently in the works for a new production of the X-Files, and he's made promises up and down. He's not remaking the X-Files. This is X-Files for our generation, and just an homage to something that a lot of people loved. So I think this might be a good sign, a good boding for what Ryan Coogler has in the mix as well. So congratulations to Michael B. Jordan. Good news for a change, and it'll be exciting to see what comes next for his career. Up next on the chalking block, Kim Kardashian dropped Jaws on Sunday night on the red carpet when she showed up looking what a lot of people are saying is visibly inebriated. She was wearing what appeared to be blue contacts. They've got to be contacts, right? But I would find it hilarious if she actually had that surgery to get her eye color changed, because the contacts if they are contacts, they're incredibly good. They look like she's had that eye color change surgery, which would just be hilarious because, as we know, everybody that gets that ends up going blind. So she showed up just looking very disheveled, very inebriated. She was just in a tight golden gown, but her eyes were almost completely closed. They looked quite bloodshot. She looked disheveled. And reporters and fans immediately noticed Kardashian's kind of narrowed, bloodshot eyes. And, as a millennial who grew up on videos and pictures of ye old girlies tumbling out of the club at 4 a.m., if you're a millennial like me, we've seen enough, right? We've seen this enough. We've seen that Kim enough. Drunk Kim Kardashian climbing into cars with Paris Hilton and partying in clubs with Paris Hilton to know when someone has had a little too much fun. So just a mess up and down. Third up today, Taylor Swift seems to be staying out of it. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the radio silence. Have you heard anything from Taylor Swift in a while? No. That's probably by design. Despite the fact that the singer is allegedly tying the knot in June of this year, just 3 short months away, there's an unusual radio silence surrounding the showgirl turned trad wife. I mean, she usually is suffocating us with pre-orders months and months and months before something comes out, and now she's silent about her marriage to a big-time football boy with a lot of questionable charity activities. That silence really becomes especially interesting on the back of the major backlash that Swift has been receiving in recent years for her alleged ties to WS culture and the ties that she's got to the current White House administration and, the Zig Heiling guys she likes to date and call her soulmate. So it's a lot of questions. Why so quiet, Taylor? Why so quiet? You so quiet. I mean, I personally am thankful for it. But I just find it so interesting that you're quiet when you were a big, strong woman who was using her voice for feminism. Interesting time to keep quiet. Last but not least, before we get into today's episode, you and I just have to have a little bit of a minute. This is how frustrated I am by this topic, you could tell. TLC needs to be stopped. Little People, Big World was bad enough. I mean, I'm sitting here clapping my hands in rage as I talk. That's how animated I'm getting about this. TLC has to be stopped. We've gone beyond the pale. And I'm talking about TLC's newest hit show, Unexpected. They've done a couple of seasons, but this season has gone bonkers viral on social media, and it's awful. It's taken over airwaves. It's taken over social media. It's got all these viral videos of, yes, you probably did not guess it, child pregnancy. That's right. Unexpected is a show about child pregnancy. You heard that correctly. The show follows the journey of pregnant children, and even with that being their basis, they have hit an all new low, showcasing a whole new cast of characters this season, all of which look like they're about 10 years old. It's horrific and graphic and gross. All of them display a grievous lack of parenting going on in America and a blatant case of exploitation going on via TLC and its producers. I mean, there's clips of a child. She looks about 9 years old. I think she's 13 and she's pregnant. And she's just laughing. She goes, well, I didn't even know I had sex because his penis was so small. And her mom's just laughing. And the girl says, well, I didn't know how sex worked because we never had the sex talk. And her mom's just laughing. And meanwhile, there's a whole human being growing in this child. It's disturbing, and it's wrong on every level. There's no level. It looks in this day and age, seeing a show about pregnant children and TLC finding the youngest children they could possibly find, it reads like a Jeffrey Epstein catalog. So it is past the point. Something needs to happen. Someone needs to face legal repercussions for this because this is like exploitative child pornography at this point. Pornography is probably too strong of a word, but it's horrifically exploitative. It's pregnant children. It's a show that's glorifying, romanticizing, and naturalizing and comedifying these pregnant little girls. So, It's time to draw the line. Like, how much are we going to accept as a society? Because at some point we need to stop calling ourselves humans. All right, it is time to buckle up for a deep dive. Dirty PR, the backbone of Hollywood's marketing game, has finally been exposed for what it is. This revelation, long suspected, if you're anything like me, came earlier this month when secret recordings of Jed Wallace were released. Recordings which seemed to demonstrate an organized, targeted, completely conscious, vicious smear campaign against a producer that Rebel Wilson didn't like on the set of Australian musical The Deb. The long and short of all of it played out like this. In 2024, there was a fallout during the post-production of The Deb, which again is this Australian musical comedy. So this movie was a big deal, apparently. This movie was a big deal because of Rebel Wilson. This was Rebel Wilson. It was supposed to be her first directorial debut. Really big job. But the whole time the film was being made, there was all these rumors about trouble in paradise, people not getting along, or, cracks really showing out in the open. Well, in 2024, Rebel Wilson comes out publicly after the release of the movie was delayed, and she points the finger directly at Amanda Ghost. And Amanda Ghost is one of the producers, and she works for AI Film, the company who is the company funding The Deb. They're funding Rebel Wilson's production of this movie. So she directly accuses Amanda Ghost of sabotaging the movie. She says Amanda demonstrated all this unprofessional, inappropriate behavior on the set, and she embezzled, which is like, wow, that's a big deal. Like, it's one thing to say, oh, we didn't get along on set, we were fighting, she created an uncomfortable workplace. It's another case to use the word embezzlement, but that's publicly what Rebel Wilson was saying. So it was a bombshell. Obviously, Amanda Ghost fires back immediately with her own defamation suit, and she claims that Rebel Wilson was the real cause of problems on set. She was difficult to work with, like impossible, just the typical kind of movie star director behavior is what she kind of describes. And she said that because of this behavior, Rebel essentially held the film hostage. And because she had destroyed the movie, she was now putting the blame on Amanda Ghost. It spiraled into this legal back and forth. The movie's not even come out yet. It's supposed to come out in April of this year, next month, or is it May of 2026? Anyway, it's supposed to come out this year in 2026, but because they're still going back and forth, we don't really know if that's going to happen. But it is essentially has become this big mess. But what's interesting about it, and the only reason you and I are talking about it, is because on March 13th, this legal back and forth actually ended up leading to a leak of tapes from Jed Wallace, who is a digital strategist, a digital crisis PR manager. And in these recordings, which were unsealed, again, on March 13th, so just a few days ago at the time I'm recording this, 3 days before I recorded this, Wallace, in these recordings, he is talking to Melissa Nathan. And Melissa Nathan is a publicist who works for Rebel Wilson's camp, her PR. She's Rebel Wilson's PR person. And Wallace seems to be telling Nathan a specific strategy to ruin Amanda Ghost, and not just to ruin her on social media, not just to make people on social media, but to like literally ruin her career forever and always in Hollywood and in the public eye. The strategy was straightforward. It was very simple. In these leaked tapes, he says, allegedly, that what they would do is that Melissa Nathan needed to get everybody together and their team, get organized, and accuse Amanda Ghost, of trafficking women to billionaires, to billionaires, and of embezzling from the company. That's what it was going to be. They were essentially going to turn her into, if you're a millennial, if you're a Gen Xer, they were going to paint her like Heidi Fleiss, the big famous madam of the 90s. Jed Wallace was like not mincing words here, right? It was very, very clear what he was saying to do. Get online and destroy her. He says at one point that like calling her a bitch and calling her difficult, the way she was calling Rebel difficult, that wasn't going to work, that they had to destroy her. They needed to kill her career. So in the age of Epstein, they were going to have to get a lot flashier and a lot more creative. So they were going to link Amanda to a human trafficking ring that was supposedly tied to these billionaires like Leo Blavatnik, who is the CEO of AI Film, which is who Amanda works for. This is the company that's funding this movie that Rebel Wilson is doing. And they were going to detonate her. They were going to paint her like Ghislaine Maxwell, essentially. They were going to say she was a Ghislaine Maxwell. And it was going to detonate, and it was going to destroy everything, and Rebel Wilson would win in the court of public opinion, and then that would eventually end all the lawsuit worries, and she would get full control, the movie would get released. Happy days, right? It's even more sinister than that, right? It's even more sinister than that, because not only did Wexner hand them this kind of basic blueprint where he's like, you need to say this thing, and you need to be really, really devious and evil about it. He tells them how they're going to do it. And it is complete fraud. Like, I don't know how other to explain this other than fraud, because essentially what he said is that they were going to create a bunch of anonymous websites. They would just create a bunch of anonymous websites, but they would make these websites look really, really, really credible and authoritative. And they would make it look like on these websites, whistleblowers were trying to come forward and say things, say the truth, but they were scared and they didn't want something to happen to them because Amanda Ghost was going to get them. And then once they had created these fake websites, they would blanket social media with the stories all at the same time, and all of these sources would use these websites, these anonymous websites, to make it look really credible and really real, like a Lex Luthor-esque supervillain kind of plan that he lays out in these Jed Wallace tapes. Unbelievable. But here's the craziest part about this. Not only have these revelations exposed a wild reality around Rebel Wilson, that she was gonna basically paint another woman as a sex trafficker in order to get her way in a battle over a bad movie. These tapes, these Jed Wallace tapes, have now become central in the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni courtroom narcissism off. I kid you not. And then it's all tied to us as well. I promise you, like, we're just getting into the meat of this. The revelations have been a bombshell for Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni as well. Not just because that they exposed that corruption around Rebel Wilson, but because it exposes the larger pattern in Hollywood, an established, funded, credible form of manipulation and disinformation that doesn't just harm the celebs involved. It takes a toll on the real human lives, reporters, social media content creators who get accused of things, who get doxxed, who get these bots that just tank their accounts, you name it. Blake Lively is now using all of this, the Jed Wallace tapes of Rebel Wilson and the work he did with her, to support her own case. And the public is drawing its eye to this central piece as a revelation that changes everything. But to really get to the root of that, I think you need to understand Jed Wallace, because he is the Sith Lord beneath all of this. So Jed Wallace is at the center of this whole controversy, and he's also, as it turns out, probably at the center of a lot of misinformation and disinformation that you have swallowed, emotional states that this man has probably triggered you into. Wallace is the owner of Street Relations, a crisis PR firm based in Texas. And these are the kinds of people that you call as a celebrity when you want to squash the competition totally. Okay, these aren't just like your local little spin doctors that are trying to make the mayor look good. No. This is like that Gudea PR firm that Taylor Swift hired to create all those stories about how she was the victim of a targeted attack. This is the same thing. Whenever a celebrity is questioned or the lies that they tell that create their money machines is threatened, they call people like Jed Wallace and his company Street Relations to fight fire with fire. Okay, these are very much fire with fire people. And Jed Wallace isn't he's not just an AI PR generator, right? He's not just going to go write some bad press. It's not just about writing bad press about someone. This guy is a Sith Lord, okay? You need to understand that he is a Voldemort of the PR world, and he has, again, been creating stuff that you have been ingesting as fact. I mean, this guy is evil. Wallace is what's known kind of in the industry as a fixer. Okay, he's a fixer. He's the kind of person you call when you don't just want to change the story. You want to kill the person who wrote the story. Not literally, you know what I mean? Like you want them to fall off a bridge. He's who you call when you need to take down the people who can validate things about you that you don't want the public knowing. Okay, he's an attack dog, and in this stance with Rebel Wilson and Amanda Ghost, that's not the first time he's done this. He's tied to the Johnny Depp case. There's all kinds of stuff he's tied to. Before this scandal broke, before this whole new leg with Rebel Wilson and Amanda Ghost, and now Blake Lively bringing him into it, he was already tied with Paramount Pictures. And as I said, he's already got these links to Johnny Depp and the lawyers that represented Johnny Depp in his case with Amber Heard, which you can go back and listen to my old episode on that because I've explained how horrific that was. But what I think really tells you who Jed Wallace is the fact that he's made and refined his product through the highly controversial streamer Aiden Ross. He represents, hangs out with, works with a lot of these YouTube and Twitch live streamers, these horror shows, these people who are in the manosphere and all that kind of crap. He and his company have been using their digital tactics to support these people. Okay. So that is the kind of person that we're talking about. That is where he's refined his attack dog skills. And we saw that refinement in this March 13th leak of the Jed Wallace tapes, because according to those recordings, Wallace was doing this vicious attack. I mean, he is telling Melissa Nathan to destroy Amanda Ghost, to destroy her, to absolutely root and stem her career, everything. He wants her absolutely destroyed. And that kind of supervillain behavior, it's kind of astounding, but when you pay close attention, right? And you see all the links, all of these people Wallace has worked with, how casually in which they all look to this man to handle the narratives around them, how quickly they are to point the finger at him, which means they know about this guy. You start to see how common this is, right? You start to see that this is the root of the machine. This is how they are able to create the stories that create the celebrities, that then create the films, that then create the buzz, that creates the next film, that creates the director, that creates it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And when you honestly start paying attention to that, this kind of supervillain behavior that Jed Wallace has displayed across years, it makes you wonder just how many times he engaged this behavior and against who. Well, as it turns out, Blake Lively actually thinks she can give us the answer to that question of how many times Jed Wallace has engaged in this behavior and against who. And this is where it all ties together and is really important to pay attention to. While Rebel Wilson and her 2024 Australian musical aren't exactly the biggest news in the zeitgeist, the ties that are now being revealed between Jed Wallace, his PR firm, and the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni ongoing debacle, that's where the real spotlight comes into place, because as it turns out, Jed Wallace and his PR firm Street Relations, they were actually brought in by Justin Baldoni after this whole PR fallout started around his movie It Ends With Us. So Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively, they do It Ends With Us. It's got all these rumors about it. They start doing the press tour, and all hell breaks loose. That's everything fell apart. Social media has executed both of them in turn. One week they'll go after Blake Lively, the next week they'll go after Justin Baldoni. But it's been an absolute shitstorm. And now it turns out Blake Lively is saying, well, when all of that shitstorm kicked off, Justin hired Jed Wallace and his PR firm to get on social media and to ruin me. They wanted to destroy me just like they destroyed Amanda Ghost. Listen to the tapes. He's talking about destroying Amanda Ghost. That's exactly what he and Justin have done to me. Well, that's a very bold accusation from Blake, and it's very, very revealing, which I'll explain why in just a minute. But it's interesting because Blake is never mentioned in these Jed Wallace tapes. These Jed Wallace tapes that got leaked in March, they are only about Rebel Wilson and Amanda Ghost. He is specifically talking about Rebel Wilson and Amanda Ghost. No other case, no one else. Blake's name is never mentioned. But Blake says, she now says, her and her lawyers have made the accusation that, look, that is the blueprint. It's the exact same thing that they did to me. Now, her fans have obviously gone rabid for that. But here's what's important for you and I to pay attention to, okay? Because Blake Lively, whether she knows it or not, has just revealed herself, first of all, because what do we know about narcissists? Every accusation is an admission. Every time they accuse someone, it is something that they themselves do. And we know that. We've seen her text messages. We've seen her emails. We know that Blake Lively was equally as guilty of trying to do smear and manipulate the narratives and manipulate stories being told about her and Justin and everybody else. We know that she's done it. Now here she is going, well, look. He does it. It's every accusation is an admission. But what Blake has also done, and I don't think she's smart enough to realize this, because she did, after all, say, "Well, I am Khaleesi with my." She got the Game of Thrones reference wrong. Like she wasn't even. She's like, "I'm gonna be Khaleesi with." Anyways, she was using. It doesn't matter. She's an idiot, and what she doesn't realize that she's done is that she has revealed how commonplace this is in Hollywood. She's essentially revealed that these PR wars with these freaking Jed Wallaces, how common it is. It's so common that it's probably every freaking story that you get. That's what she revealed when Blake Lively rushed to point the finger and go, look what he's doing. Because although her name was never mentioned in the tapes, Blake Lively immediately went, that's about me. That's exactly what was done to me. And for her to admit that so quickly, within days of these leaked tapes coming out, just reveals how commonplace it is. She's obviously seeing the pattern. Well, how do you see a pattern? You recognize things you're familiar with, right? And of course, she is a part of the Hollywood machine. She's familiar with that. She's seen this before. That's why she's so confident pointing the finger, because she knows for a fact this happens all the time. She's probably engaged in the exact same thing, right? She feels confident making that accusation because she knows it happens all the time. She knows how common it is for these celebrity units to manipulate media in order to manipulate the public. Who wouldn't otherwise want to support these people if we actually saw how they really behaved on a day-to-day level? She revealed everything, not just about herself, but about the way the whole system around her works. This isn't just proof of some social media smear campaign between a handful of shitty actors. It's proof of a post-truth feed being spun around every single element of the media. The story of Jed Wallace doesn't just demonstrate the petty, narcissistic, and self-destructive nature of individuals in Hollywood. It literally demonstrates the death of genuine, honest, organic public opinion. We are living in a post-truth age, folks, where the stories you consume are created for you in order to create a certain desired outcome for someone else. Some of it's created for sport, some of it for money, others for abusive and coercive means. It's all by design. And the truth is intentionally left out of it, on purpose. If a digital fixer can create an entire storyline echoed across trusted media for multiple years, then what are you going to actually trust on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook? It's not a trick question. We can't. We shouldn't. The Hollywood machine is intentionally generating hate and distrust to breed a society that's not just conditioned to be obedient, but conditioned to be completely unplugged from reality, from their emotions, and from truth. Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively are going to court on May 18th of this year, and the only thing that we can absolutely rely on is that the whole way there, both of them are going to do everything they can to manipulate the public, to manipulate the courts, and to manipulate everyone and everything around them. All in the hopes that one of them will come off looking better than the other, get more money than the other, and get more control over a shitty movie from a shitty author based on a shitty book than the other. Okay? They're both going to use bots to ruin reputations, not just of each other, but of creators who talk about them, anyone in the media who says things that they don't like, people who have opinions they just can't tolerate. And who does that sound like? Squashing opinions of people that they don't like. Who does that sound like? Yet, the trial remains important. Why? Because the outcome is ultimately going to help us decide where the line is. Like, are we going to continue to just allow people to engage in this kind of fraudulent manipulation of public opinion, which then in turn manipulates the court system? You know, are we gonna just say it's aggressive marketing and call it a day, or are we actually gonna call it the fraud that it is? Jed Wallace and the leak of these tapes has single-handedly proved that nothing you see in Hollywood is real, and he's also proved that you don't need a trial as long as you can win in the search results, right? Right? And remember, he's not the only one either. How many other crisis PR firms do you think there are out there in the world? How many other paid handlers are out there doling stories to the media, doling out lines that are echoed by paid influencers on TikTok and Instagram? How many people do you think are spinning lies for these people? With like no question about it. It's something that we critically have to think about. This is like an undeniable story that we have to pay attention to, and we have to deconstruct it along with the deconstruction of celebrity as a whole. It's a part of it. It's something we have to chew on. It's something dire to pay attention to in the age of fascism, media illiteracy, fear-mongering, and propaganda. Because again, it's not just that Hollywood is full of lies. This demonstrates that, but that's not the whole of the point. The point of this, the point of the story, what I need you to take away from this more than anything else is that you need to understand that the whole of the machine treats truth as a secondary concern. It is a secondary concern. The truth is not necessary to them as long as they continue to fill pockets. Pockets of people, by the way, who again and again and again keep being tied to Jeffrey Epstein. Rebel Wilson's team didn't just want to win a lawsuit. They wanted to perform a character assassination on someone so deep it would affect them for decades to come. The same with Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. Throat to throat. They can't see reality for the blood that they're spraying in each other's eyes. And for what? For what? All of these cases are these instances of celebrity cruelty, narcissism, pettiness. All of it continues to reveal the truth that they're most desperate to hide. They keep fighting these horrific battles against each other, making up these lies and stories to try to make you believe they're a good guy. And meanwhile, the crimes that they're committing reveal that they're the shitty person they're trying to hide. Right? The cover-up is worse than the crime. The cover-up is worse than the crime. They don't want you to know that good guys don't win in Hollywood anymore. If you've made it to the top, you've not gotten there because you're a good person. It's the bad ones who crawl to the top of the pile. People who are willing to engage in the lies of the system in order to cheat people, fraud people out of money. It's the bad ones. And when you tune in, you're signing yourself up as one of their soldiers. If you go and put that Swiftie badge on, guess what? You better strap on your boots because you're now a nameless, nobody, nothing soldier for someone who doesn't know you exist. So pay attention out there in the trenches. Know when you're looking at a coordinated attack and a genuine piece of truth trying to break through. Listen to marginalized voices. Know when you see one coordinated wave of hate with all the same language, wording, timing. Pay attention. Remember the Sith Lords in the background like Jed Wallace who are pulling strings. Everything you see may not be worth believing anymore. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you learned something new, and I hope I helped you deconstruct some of this cult of celebrity that so many of us have been chained to. If you loved this episode, please leave a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. It just helps the other weirdos find me. It helps make the Swifties angry, and it helps all of us deconstruct this incredibly dangerous cult of celebrity that we're all, willing or not, trapped in today. If you would like an even deeper breakdown on celebrity, society, and narcissism, then head over to my Substack. I post weekly essays there and deep dives. I am an NLPMP with diplomas in developmental psychology and a bunch of other stuff. So I know a little bit of what I'm talking about, and I talk about it there on Substack. So this week I'm talking about narcissistic parents who exploit their disabled children for internet clout. There's a lot of stuff there. A deeper look into parasocial relationships. It's good stuff. So head over to thereallybejohnson.substack.com if you want to tickle your brain and get some really meaty factual deep dives on society, psychology, and everything else that interests me. If you would like to get ad-free episodes of this podcast or my other podcast, Nooska, as well as sneak peeks, breakdowns, voice notes, and more, then head over to patreon.com, where I am building a creative network for people who love the intersections of society, psychology, and pop culture just like you. If you want to join that and help me grow that, then head over to patreon.com/Nooska. And if you just can't handle the deep dive, you don't want to be in the deep end of the pool right now, then why don't you go over to Instagram and TikTok, where you can get bite-sized bits of deconstruction straight from me. That is at The Real E.B. Johnson on all platforms. And you can also find me on YouTube. If you would like to listen to full episodes of Scandal Queens or my other podcast, Nooska, which I host with my co-host and dear, dear friend, Connie. And that's going to be it for the day. You know where to find me. You know where to get more if you want it. Thank you again for listening. And until next time, keep your secrets closed and your scandals closer. Bye-bye.